As we turn the calendar to May, pre-draft best ball season is finally over. With Best Ball Mania 4 already 2% full, it's crucial we understand the impacts of the draft on both rookie and veteran values. We're here today to break it all down. Let's go. This is ADP Chasing.
Pat Fryer Helmo.
This is why I'm hot.
Anita Handjob.
Fix your site. Jamar. Alpha play chase. Are you kidding me? Kadarius Toney?
You can't handle the heat.
It looks like we're finally at this point. You're right.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the first post-draft version of ADP Chasing. Pat, Davis, how were your draft weekends?
Good.
Deuce Vaughn got selected. That was really my primary rooting interest, and he got selected to a team where he might even play. So honestly, even better. Beautiful stuff. And Kansas City didn't take Jahmyr Gibbs, which was actually the number one rooting interest.
They would have been what a fall they would have gotten. What a steal to get.
If he was, apparently there were rumors even that Carolina actually did that trade up just to secure the services of Jahmyr Gibbs, and they actually changed their mind at the last minute, deciding to go with the less premium position of
the Texans as well. Apparently, the Texans considered taking Gibbs and then trading up for Anderson, but decided that
ownership got in the way of that one. I heard.
But yeah, we were talking about it before. The Deuce Vaughn, the clip of Deuce Vaughn's dad calling in the pick for the Cowboys. That was cool. For people who haven't seen that, that was pretty awesome. He's like,
as if we needed more reasons to root for Deuce Vaughn.
Yeah. What is his dad, like a scout or something? On the he has some affiliation with the
yeah,
Cowboys,
I forget what he does for the Cowboys, but he works for them. He was in the room. It's pretty sweet.
Was your guys' biggest moment of the draft figuring out just how expensive Rashee Rice was going to get in drafts? Because as of right now, he's about 100% discount on 2018 McCole Hardman and 2022 Sky Moore. He's like 180 right now. So
yeah, that's not going to hold.
If you want to draft him, you got to do it now.
So I set up my rankings to be kind of capped by how much they can be ahead of ADP, basically. Mm-hmm. But like the real rank for Rice is, I think, in like the 12th round range. So I think he's got.
It's big Tobias Funke marriage counseling energy. Right?
Yeah,
like taking the rookie Chiefs wide receiver didn't work out for those other people, but it might work out for us.
It never works out.
You got to triple down on that strategy.
I mean, it feels like he's a second round pick. He's not a good prospect. He's not a terrible prospect. I don't know. I actually do think the Tobias Funke strategy in this case is correct.
Yeah,
we should just continue. Obviously, in retrospect, and even at the time, for some people who aren't me, chasing Sky Moore up to where he was going last year wasn't good. But we don't have to do that with Rice. Like Rice, we can, if you're getting him like the 13th round, great. And that's obviously quite a bit higher than he is right now.
Well, if the market is more rational, right? Like there just was no point where people would have taken Sky Moore in the 6th round last year if they needed to. It would have just gotten to that spot. So if people are more rational, then maybe it's an exploitative way to play.
I think they will stay more rational because Rice just isn't as exciting of a prospect.
His name isn't Sky, so that's a big part of it too.
It's not the sickest fucking name you've ever heard.
Right.
He had almost no hype in the pre-draft stuff as well, at least for like best ball. Maybe some deep dynasty people were on him, but I don't know. I didn't see
really.
He
wasn't even like one of the names that people. He was just fine. He was fine.
Yeah.
I want to say he didn't even get picked in my rookie draft that I did before the draft.
It doesn't surprise me, honestly.
But the 407 was where he went in the pre-draft one.
Because he didn't really have any traits that like he's not huge, he's not super fast, like he didn't really do anything like efficiency wise that's like there's no like real reason to be. I don't know. Let me know if you know of any Rashee Rice truthers, but
Yeah.
I got a message from one of my buddies who's a big college football DFS. He works for Roto Grinders, Fear My Turtle, like huge DFS grinder. And he was the one person who messaged me being excited. He was like, he's actually going to be good. So,
all right. Yeah, I have him, I think in like the 11th round. If the market thought he was an 11th round pick, I would have him in the 11th round in my ranks.
Yeah. We'll get into Rice a little bit more. So just to set the sort of outline for the show, we're going to focus today pretty exclusively on the rookie and veteran risers and fallers. So we split them out here on this chart to just show the rookie risers. And yeah, we'll get into all these players, but guys that jump out right away, Mingo, obviously seeing a huge rise, Bijan, Kincaid, Gibbs, Richardson, Rashee Rice, Laporta, all up around 20% in ADP, which is a huge jump. And the one thing that's interesting before we get into the individual players is, so if you look at these percent change in ADPs for the rookie risers, you see like a total of 10 guys that are above a 15% increase in ADP. Then if you look at the rookie fallers, there's only 5 rookies that meet that same criteria for falling. So only 5 rookies fell by more than 15% in ADP. So I think it does show you a little bit that these rookies in pre-draft, even in today's landscape where I think people are on to the rookies and pre-draft stuff, there's still a little bit of an asymmetric upside bet where there's more potential for huge increases in their ADP than necessarily huge falls. And some of these falls that jump out here, like JSN and Quentin Johnston, I'm actually skeptical that they'll remain fallers in the long term. We'll see sort of how the ADP
Hyatt is going to see, I mean, this is micro analysis, but Hyatt's going to see a big bump pretty soon.
Yeah.
Why do you think that?
I think he typecasts as like a day one starter, right?
The Giants do have a pretty.
I have a different read on that.
But you think they're going Slayton, Campbell, Wandale? I don't know. I mean, it's just
Hodgins is starting.
Yeah, I mean, he's Isaiah Hodgins, dude. He's like,
no, I know. But I mean, they took him in the 3rd round. Like, and actually, I went and watched that press conference, and they asked Joe Shane straight up, like, would you have taken Hyatt where you took the guy that you previously took? I think it was at the very end of the 2nd round, and he was like, we really like Hyatt. It was something like that. Like I think they had a 3rd round.
Your hand is in the fucking dirt right now, dude. Like, my God, just Joe Shane press conference takes. What a valuable asset you are, Kerrane.
I've been loving your tweets on the press conference stuff. The context of how the GMs view the players. Those have been super interesting.
Here's what I'll say. I mean, like, remember when Dan Campbell got hired and everyone was like freaking out about what a caveman idiot he was? I had to do the Lions write up for Roto-World that year, and I went and watched the whole press, not the whole thing because it was like an hour long, but I went and watched like that clip and some other clips, and I came away being like, this dude's the man. Like he's like super passionate. Like he's clearly like the kneecap thing's kind of funny, but then he was like talking about like player empowerment, how he like wants to have this the type of team that he wants to build, the type of culture he wants to build, like how influenced he was by Sean Payton. So I actually think the press conferences are a legit. We're all going to be influenced by various narratives and stuff, and it's just one more version of that. But at least it's like going to the source to find your narrative. So I kind of enjoy it.
That's fair. It's better than just basing your narratives off of hype on Twitter that you see from random
That's
analysts.
Clearly the GTO way to draft.
Yeah, the Hyatt stuff, I want to get into that. Let's start with the risers, though. The first name that pops up in this chart here as sort of by far and away the largest riser in terms of raw change in ADP, Jonathan Mingo, who got day 2 draft capital from the Panthers, jumps up to pick
day 2 as well.
Early day 2.
Yeah, what was it? 30,
39.
It's almost the Higgins.
I just want to I want to get out of the way here. I want to flag plant here. No Mingo for me. I just bad. It's every argument that we made when Sam was trying to get us to buy Adam Thielen also applies to Mingo. It's like low volume offense, most likely. Not going to be productive. Bryce Young is going to, my projection for Bryce Young would be that he comes in as a sub-league average quarterback. And Kerrane can speak more to this than I can, but like the production profile for Mingo is like atrocious. It really is a case. And we were saying this before in our shows leading up to the draft. We were saying guys like Tillman, guys like Quentin Johnson, they were just the fact that they were boundary wide receivers was going to push them way up. And I think that is what happened with Mingo.
Well, I agree with your overall assessment of Mingo and why he got drafted where he did, but I don't want to be out on him. And I especially don't want to be out on him right now because I think this is the type of player that's going to continue to rise in drafts. He's going to rise through training camp. There are going to be reports about how they see him as the clear number one right out of the gate. You're going to hear that because they just took him in the very early second round. Of course, they're going to say that. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to come to pass. But I also think you do have a prospect profile that looks pretty similar to Michael Pittman's. And you have the same coaching staff that just fed Michael Pittman targets in a way that felt strange. So I think, he doesn't really do the production stuff we want, but he went to Ole Miss. He's really big. He's super athletic. He's like giant hands. Like the guy, like feeding this dude targets seems like a viable option.
I would have been
really with that.
I would have been really into Jonathan Mingo like 2015, like the beginnings of the RotoViz era. I would have been like, yeah, this is my guy.
So I think we're all into Mingo like at 170. I guess the better question.
What I'm saying is I'm into Mingo in basically like the 11th round. Like, give me
so that was my follow-up question is how far you're willing to chase him
Not
up.
for me.
You're saying to pick 120-ish. You're willing to take him up to there.
Yeah, because if you go to what was he drafted? Was it 34? Was his draft
39?
39. So RotoViz screener or the box score scout rather with pick 39. It's not loading, but his comps are like Pittman, Chase Claypool, Deebo Samuel. Like it's all the second round. Muhammad Massaquoi.
Oh wow, remember him. That's a throwback.
Cody Latimer, Josh Palmer. So not all great. T. Higgins is in there. So I don't know. I mean, he's kind of like. Here's what I'll say about Mingo. I do not want to take him in the 8th round, or the 9th round. I really don't want to take him there. So, but how is this going to go? I don't think it's going to go that he's like buried on the depth. New coaching staff comes in, takes this guy very early in the 2nd round to pair with their rookie quarterback. And they have a history. I mean, Michael Pittman ran a route on like 100% of dropbacks, like the entire time he was in, with Reich. So they kind of have a type. This guy's like literally second highest comp is Michael Pittman. So my thing is like, let's get exposure now while it's still like
I don't have any problem with that thesis. I have a problem with chasing him up. So like I was just looking at the ADP and these are some guys I'm for sure taking like 10 times out of 10 over Mingo. Elijah Moore, already looking like Elijah Moore is probably going to be my biggest bet at wide receiver this year. And we can get more into that at some point. Bateman, going to be betting on him pretty hard, I think.
I like Bateman.
Yeah.
Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison right now is wide receiver 43. This is
Addison should be going in like the 70s.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the ADP right now. I'll probably would take Sky Moore ahead of Jonathan Mingo. Just martingaling there. I'd hate to lose that. I even think guys like Tyler Boyd, Darnell Mooney, like some of these guys, I want to bet I want to bet on Boyd staying healthy for 17 games, and then Mooney, because I've done 4 BBMs already, and this is where I've realized a lot of the times at that point in the draft, I'm looking for a little bit of spike week at wide receiver because I greatly prefer taking elite tight end, and that's a bigger discussion anyway. But Mooney feels like such a good bet on Fields and the Bears like becoming one of these offenses that you'd be like, shit, I didn't have enough Bear sacks. Like I feel like I'm drawing dead.
It's funny. I have Mooney ranked 1 spot behind Mingo on my pure rank. So I don't have any issues with. I
mean, I get it. I get it. Yeah. I'm not like I get your position. I just am thinking like that's probably not going to be the way I'm going to draft him.
Yeah. I think I'm with you, Davis, on most of those names that you said. I think once you get into the Boyd, Mooney, Sky Moore, I think that's where I think I'm probably taking Mingo at least some of the time over those guys. But yeah, the first handful of
I have
names-
Boyd ranked ahead. So I don't really disagree, but I guess I just like get him while he's on the way up. Chase him up.
Yeah.
I think
He's gonna go
Doesn't
high.
matter.
I think we're all accurate and we're all right in saying he's gonna go 30. This rise isn't over. He's gonna go.
No.
I'd say minimum he'll go up to 140. And I
You
can
know
see
who
even
else's
higher.
rise is not over, Sam? Bijan Robinson's rise is not over. Let me tell you that much. I can tell the thirst mongers on Underdog.com. This is a fun game. What do we think his August 30th ADP is? I wager his ADP ends up ahead of Travis Kelce by August 30th.
I agree with you. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the first name. Because I have him 7 already, so I don't think he's going to be, But I think he's probably the 106.
I think
That
he's like the
seems
104.
So okay, so it's Jefferson, and then who are the other?
It's
guys ahead of him?
Jefferson. It's Jefferson, McCaffrey, Chase, then Bijan.
So ahead of Hill.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah,
I think you're probably right.
doesn't seem crazy. I mean, yeah, I don't see how things go negative for him.
What other team could you have rationally projected to take him where you would have liked his odds of having a 350-point season more? I think in terms of rational teams that could have taken him, I think this was the nut spot for him. 100%.
I was watching the Badge Bros right before this, and they were talking about how the Levis pick by the Titans gives the Falcons another chance to go get Tannehill.
100%. 100%.
So, I mean, if Tannehill's the quarterback here instead of Ritter, and we don't have to like sweat like this offense being horrendous potentially,
Probably makes them like 2 points per game better as a team or something.
That's the fear, I think, is that like, what we saw with Baker last year for CMC before they both moved on from that situation in Carolina. I think that's the fear with Bijan, is that the systemic, just absolute failure of the offense, prevents Bijan from getting to his, and he'll still be good in that situation. Like he'll still get a crazy high snap share. He'll still have a good season, but he might not be worth a mid first round pick if the offense is really bad. And I think it's entirely plausible that the offense is that bad with Ritter. So
yeah,
I wouldn't go completely overboard on him if he is like the 106 to 8. I think that's a fair price.
I would also say Heineke can like be a non-total disaster. Like if Ritter's truly a disaster, like they can't score at all, and they go like Heineke's not good. Heineke is like a D- NFL quarterback, but like he can.
But he's not an F.
He's not an F. And Ritter might be an F.
Sure, there's a solid backup option, but it's still like project for bottom 4 worst quarterback play in the NFL with their quarterback room. Like it's got to be bottom 5.
There is sort of a thing with Bijan, and this goes to Davis's point about like this being the best landing spot, is that they're going to run a ton, so he's going to get used like a traditional running back.
And their offensive line.
Their offensive line is really good, and we want dump offs. We don't want that efficient of quarterback play. We want a guy who goes, "Oh crap, couldn't read the defense again," dumping it off to Bijan.
And the like justification, and we're gonna get to Gibbs too, but like the justification from the people that took him has already begun. Like actually we view him as like he can do X, Y, and Z, and he can be wide receiver and he can catch passes. The justification from the regime like kept Saquon Barkley getting 18 touches a game when he just looked like dog shit. Like there's no plausible scenario where he's not getting the ball.
Yeah, and I think there's something to be said, and I probably need to look into this more, but when teams lack good depth at wide receiver and tight end, I think that can be a pretty big boost for the running back in terms of pass catching. Like I'm thinking last year, like the Jags, I think part of the reason why ETN doesn't catch so many passes is they have Ingram, they have Zay Jones, they have Christian Kirk, they have even, Marvin Jones isn't a terrible third wide receiver. Like there's just a lot of mouths to feed in that passing offense. And as a result, ETN, who might be a decent pass catcher, just doesn't catch passes. For Atlanta, you have Pitts, London, end of sentence. Like who else is going to command any target share like in that?
You're not a Marvin Hall guy?
Yeah. Like Elamides, Zacchaeus. I don't know. Like it's, Jonnu Smith, there's no one. So
there's no
I think from a target share perspective, it's like a pretty awesome landing spot for Bijan. The question is, what's a 15% target share worth when Arthur Smith is passing 5 times per week? But we'll see about that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But it's still exciting. I'll take the L on the, Bijan's going to have a bad landing spot take.
We told you then. He was going to the Falcons.
I got to be honest. I had that take and I was still drafting him a decent bit. I had
even Sam didn't believe his take.
I didn't believe
because the cost of getting that wrong in those early drafts is just because he's just going to get the ball so much.
Yeah.
No, it was. I think it could have gone wrong, but ultimately, the argument you guys made were his floor. Even if you got the Patriots are probably the not worst landing spot.
I think the Bears were.
Yeah.
There were
Bears
definitely some landmines, but it was certainly a good pick at early second or whenever he was going at the end of the big board. Let's talk Kincaid. He's up pretty massively. He was a guy I took a stand on the rookie tight ends just basically based on this logic that, hey, we have the Cowboys, we have the Bengals, we have all these teams where we're going to love the landing spot. I actually wasn't even thinking about the Bills, but clearly the market does love this Bills landing spot. He's up 50 spots to pick 147. Pat, I know we talked a little bit about Kincaid on the draft show, but what are your thoughts on how Kincaid fits into the Bills offense? And does he, with Knox in the picture, do you think he has a ceiling at tight end? I think he's going around tight end 15-ish now. Let me check on that. But
this is insane, dude. People have lost their minds.
Yeah, tight end 16 right now.
Laporta is going to straight up outscore Dalton Kincaid, and he's the tight end 29 when I drafted this morning.
Yeah. It does. It's I want to be excited about Kincaid because what are we really playing for when we take a tight end, in kind of the double digit rounds? It's you kind of just want him to score a touchdown in the fantasy playoffs.
Alberto scored 13 points in week 17 famously. Don't forget.
He was a great pick. I like taking early tight ends. I like taking elite tight ends. So,
same.
Especially in those builds, I don't really need a ton from this guy, except in the fantasy playoffs. He could be extremely important. And then if you're going 3 tight ends, I think he makes sense to mix in. So I kind of get it. To me, he strikes me as he has the profile of someone who should be a 14th round pick or lower, because I do think he could really, really struggle to give you much out of the gate. And the reason I say that is because Dawson Knox has been a staple of that offense. He's run a ton of routes over the years. He plays in line. They have him under contract, not just this year, but next year. He's not going anywhere. And I think they trust him. And so you're getting the big slot move tight end guy, but his routes, he could have a route rate of 45% for much of the year.
What if Dalton Kincaid is just Isaiah Likely?
That's a realistic year one projection. And that's the thing, is that I'm with you, Pat, that I want to be excited about Kincaid. I think you can even make the argument that hey, he's just on the Bills offense. We're going to project the Bills to score, top 3 touchdowns in the NFL this year. Just give me the tight end and the team that's going to score a shit ton of touchdowns. And I think that's a fine argument to make. The thing is, for me, I just think from when you're looking at tight ends from Kincaid through Laporta, and I have players in that range that I like a little bit more, a little bit less, but tight end just gets so flat in that tight end 15 to tight end 24 range. I can make a case about Luke Musgrave back there. I can make a case about Trey McBride. It can even make a case about grosser veterans like Hayden Hurst and Hunter Henry. Surely I want Kincaid over those guys, but it's just such a flat tier. And if there's opportunity cost at quarterback, running back, wide receiver, when you have to take Kincaid in the 130s, I'm probably just going to have less of him, because there's plenty of tight ends you can get 60 picks later. For instance, Laporta, if this holds, I think the Laporta bet is very similar to the Kincaid bet, but it's 50 picks.
There's a 50 spot spread, and I would take Laporta. I think Laporta scores more points year one.
I think Laporta might be a better bet.
I think he is too. Yeah.
I think Laporta was a very strong prospect before the draft, in my opinion, and to get that really high draft capital. I mean, the other thing about Laporta is just like Kincaid is a really nice fit for what the Bills are looking to do because he's a seam stretcher. He's a big slot seam stretcher. It's like, man, he landed with Josh Allen. Like, what could be better than that? But Laporta is an underneath target who adds after the catch. I mean, landing with the Lions is like the nut landing spot for him, especially they have no one at tight end. Like, no one. He could play right away. My issue with Laporta is he like really sucks at blocking. And so I do think there's downside risk where he just doesn't play much this year, but he has a pretty big ceiling, I think, is like a fun yards after catch guy who sees targets.
Yeah, but what both of them have working in their favor is I think both the Bills and the Lions have pretty weak depth at both like slot wide receiver 3, and tight end. More so, obviously, the Lions and the Bills there, but I think that at least guarantees that both these guys have some kind of role out of the gate.
Well, I think Laporta has like no competition. I think his competition is himself. Like if he's bad, he's not going to play.
Right.
But
right.
Kincaid has, I mean, obviously, like I don't think Dawson Knox is going to go to the bench for him. So it's really about Shakir and Deontay Hardy and also fading, Jarvis Landry or like that. They bring in the Buffalo Bills. Or Hopkins, right? The Bills bring in that guy. I mean, the Bills have brought in a veteran wide receiver every year of Josh Allen's career, like late on in the process.
Hopkins would be a real problem for him because, like, now it's like, are you playing Gabe Davis or are you playing? Because is it Hopkins and Diggs outside, and you've got like a two tight end set with Kincaid and Knox, or is it?
Which it would not surprise me if Gabe Davis found more of the bench this year. I mean, he was very bad last year.
But the odds of Kincaid being like a better pass catcher than Gabe Davis, I know we've kind of knocked Gabe Davis. He didn't have a great season, but like he's still a wide receiver. He's still probably better than a rookie tight end as a pure pass catcher.
Yeah, it's also the element of speed. Like if you have Hopkins and Diggs on the field, those aren't two guys that are going to blow by anyone at this point in their careers. Like you probably want more speed on the field. Like the offense is pretty congested.
And on the perimeter.
Yeah, exactly. So Kincaid out there with those two guys, to me, I mean, actually, Kincaid didn't run a 40. I guess we don't know how fast he is, but that seems like things get pretty.
I didn't think he was going to go in the first round. It feels like such a red flag for a tight end not to test at all. I was very surprised when he went ahead of Meyer.
Yeah, I was surprised by that too. Where are you guys at in Meyer? He's not on this chart, but I think while we're on the rookie tight ends, I guess
same thesis for him as Laporta. He comes in with like basically if he's good, there's no one that's going to keep him on the bench. But if he's bad, they'll just have a blocking tight end play and use Jacoby Myers and Hunter Renfrow.
So the Hooper-Gerald dream is dead for Austin Hooper. Are we?
Oh,
Hooper got less money than Hooper got less money than first place of Best Ball Mania 4.
You forgot the thing with the Ertz-Gerald thesis is that we had to once score fantasy points.
Right.
Come on, he did once. He had one.
It's true. He did have the Falcons year, but it was so long ago. I like Mayer. I have him one spot ahead of Laporta. I think it is very similar, but like he is a good blocker. And so I think the bottom falls out because he can't get on the field scenarios are less likely with Mayer than with Laporta.
Yep.
I think.
Breaking news. We got to do this before we get deeper into the show. The Chiefs are expected to sign running back Jerick McKinnon per rap sheet.
God, I can't believe I have CEH bags to mourn now.
Veach just said this right now, like literally like 60 seconds ago.
I was kind of flipping a coin and taking a decent clip of both McKinnon and CEH. I just felt like there was a good chance McKinnon would be back, but yeah. So what do we think? Like basically the same thing as last year, like Pacheco 100%. And McKinnon splitting with CEH as the reserve.
CH probably starts the year playing more because they like to keep McKinnon. I literally think it will just be copy and paste what happened last year. McKinnon will get in there a little bit to get his sea legs underneath him, and then week 10 or so, they'll start to play him a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
So where do you think McKinnon is fair value?
Around 14.
Ooh. Yeah, I was going to say pick 130. I mean, I'd take him. I'm just looking at ADP right now. I'd take him over like Donta Foreman, Antonio Gibson.
Have you guys experienced this though? That because it's May 1st and we so many guys are unsigned and Dalvin Cook contract, like running back just gets so disgusting after about like where James Conner goes, like running back 28, you get there and you're like, Jesus Christ, I don't want to click any of these names at all. Like, I don't want to, and obviously loads of these guys are going to be relevant. Loads of these guys are going to have spike weeks, but we're just so far away from the beginning of the season that it's so uncertain.
I'm with
you.
It
is, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one thing Leone talked about in his best ball manifesto is that zero running back teams, they actually didn't do better early in the draft season. It was like when you're drafting later, zero running back was actually slightly outperforming.
I totally believe that.
And it actually makes sense when you think about it, when you consider how important it is not to have dead roster spots on these best ball teams when you get to the playoffs. You're way more likely to have dead roster spots if you go zero running back now. At running back right now, it's like
personal experience. I can confirm. I just took Leonard Fournette on 2 teams already.
Yeah, no, I haven't taken Fournette. I'm taking him, and if I'm taking Fournette, I mean that tells you a lot.
Although the nut Fournette landing spot just closed up. If they are in fact re-signing McKinnon, that would have been one of his outs.
Well, the biggest out is they cut Mixon and add Fournette.
Feels like that's not happening. Feels like the Bengals are just going into the season with Joe Mixon and a bunch of 5th-round rookies and just letting whatever happens.
But what might happen is that he gets suspended.
Can you cut it? Can you cut a guy's salary if they're suspended?
I'm not sure.
Isn't that like one of the theories is that they're waiting on that because they don't want to cut him now because if he does get suspended, then they can save even more money. Like
that does feel pretty Bengals,
we need Hayden.
Right? Like the Bengals
we need
ownership.
Hayden. Hayden would know the answer to this.
Yeah, we need Hayden in the chat so we don't just speculate on NFL rules. But yeah,
aren't the Bengals owners like famously cheap as well? I mean, this does seem
cheap.
like
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So they're waiting for that suspension. They're definitely waiting for it.
There's a couple more really high profile guys to talk through here. Let's hit on Gibbs first. Obviously,
what does this do to Pacheco?
I think the thesis remains the same. They were always going to do something on passing downs, whether it be Clyde, whether it be McKinnon, whether it be signing someone. I think the Pacheco thesis remains largely unchanged.
Yeah, I think he drops a bit, but nothing crazy. Like, would you have Pacheco or James Cook, or Pacheco or James Conner?
Pacheco. Although Cook and Harris, I actually kind of like drafting them as a tandem a little bit. Like they both seem fine.
Yeah, this seems like sort of the median outcome in terms of competition that Kansas City was going to add. I mean, I think there was a possibility they added someone in the draft, which would have been worse for Pacheco.
Or Swift, right? If they were the Swift team, then Pacheco was like
team,
real dusty.
Who do you think they were looking at? Because they clearly were like, let's wait and sign Jarek after the draft. But there must have been someone. What if it was Gibbs?
What if they wanted the small RB? What if
they wanted Deuce?
What if they were like, all right, 7th round, no one else will want him. Let's just take him.
Dude, this is the most Davis Mattek thing ever. That Deuce Vaughn not only went to the Cowboys, but the Cowboys sniped the Chiefs.
Sniped him from the Chiefs. Yeah. I think they did probably want Gibbs, to be honest.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the key to figuring out Pacheco, McKinnon is figuring out if the playoff stuff was truly McKinnon getting benched or was he hurt and it was like not reported.
0%. I think the re-signing says it's 0% chance it was benching and 100% chance that he was banged up.
To me, it always seemed like
super logical.
That had to be the reason why. So
his legs were dead again. The guy's been battling dead legs for 3 years.
I lost the 220-1 same game parlay on the Super Bowl when McKinnon went down on the 1 yard line instead of scoring. McKinnon anytime touchdown was the last leg. No big deal. It's fine.
By the way,
all right. So let's talk about Gibbs. Let's talk about Gibbs because I think Gibbs is your classic. You can't make him go high enough where I won't take him type guy because Swift, when he played this role, was awesome. When Swift was playing 70% of the snaps, even before the Lions were even good, like back in like 2020 and stuff, he was crushing. And clearly what happened, they just hated him. They like every day Dan Campbell and Deuce Staley came into work and they were like, I cannot believe we got to deal with this guy's shit more. Like they wanted him to be this in between I think Kevin Cole pulled some quotes from Hard Knocks where Deuce Staley was like, "You got to just do this," and basically Swift was like, "No, I won't. I won't. Like I don't want to do that." And they now feel.
By the way, DeAndre Swift, way better running back than Deuce Staley. I'm sorry, Deuce, but come on, let the man do his thing.
Sure. I mean that's my theory. That's my theory too. And clearly they just have this organizational buy-in with Jahmyr Gibbs that like, okay, this is going to be the guy who does all the things they want. And David Montgomery is now just fancy Jamal Williams. He's just Jamal Williams on a 3-year contract or whatever. His role, well, I don't think will, and really I think the big takeaway will just be we're not going to see any Justin Jackson, Craig Reynolds stuff unless things really start to go haywire. I think there's so much meat on the bone for Gibbs.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's already number one. I think he's already pretty up there. It's a pretty big jump. He's at pick 45. I think if I'm just looking at running back positional rankings of the guys that currently go ahead of him, I'd probably take him over Najee. I'd probably take him over Kenneth Walker. That might be it. I don't think I'm taking him over like Ramondre.
I have him well over those guys. I mean, part of it is that I'm way below market on both those guys. I think Kenneth Walker should be like in the 5th round.
Yeah, yeah. But then, like, are you taking him over like Ramondre, Jacobs, Brees, like those guys? I think that's probably where I stop. Yeah,
I set the line at run. I'd put him. I guess I'm right about. I guess the thing is I'm never taking Chubb at ADP, and Henry is not on my board at all.
Why don't you like Chubb at ADP?
I'm hammering Chubb, to be honest.
Because I like Pollard more, and he's cheaper.
I'm hammering.
Well, I like Pollard more too, but Chubb is. I mean, they didn't add anybody as a pass catcher, and I don't think they're bringing Hunt back.
Whatever. I could be talked into him. I also think it's May 1st, and Brees Hall. We haven't gotten the first report about he might not be ready for week 1.
Yeah.
The second that Brees Hall, the knee's a little wonky. We're looking at like a week 4 return or something. Then Brees Hall will start to catapult down boards.
I tweeted about Hall, and 2 different Twitter doctors said they're super bullish. So take that for what it's worth.
The thing about Hall is he has so much upside, and I totally understand the thesis. It's just that Pollard, Jacobs, and Chubb all go right next to him, and like those guys to me, maybe like you could argue with Jacobs and Chubb, they don't have like the pass catching ceiling that Hall does, but I don't know. I think Pollard has an insane ceiling too, and he's right next to Hall. So for me, it's just like I don't have the injury concerns about Pollard than I do about Hall. Maybe that's wrong in this like Pollard broken leg thing. I should be more concerned about, but like that's just
no. I have Pollard ranked above Hall as well.
Yeah, but that's just like the mental tiebreaker. Yeah.
And I got Hall in the 3rd round today. I went Bijan, Waddle, Hall. That seemed fun.
That is fun.
Like, are you guys? It sounds like we're all pretty high on Gibbs. What I'm trying to figure out is like, does that mean we're all fading Montgomery at his price, or do you think this is a situation where both? He's at pick 70 right now, so you don't see it as a situation where both.
This is not Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon, like at all. I don't think. I think Montgomery will have a couple touchdown related spike weeks, but I don't think we get any passing game usage, like hardly at all. The more interesting conversation to me related to this is that I'm just like not gonna take DeAndre Swift. Like maybe if he remains okay, I guess I shouldn't say that. If it's like DeAndre Swift settles at like running back 20 where he is right now, and it's like him or Miles Sanders or whatever, like maybe, but the comparison I've been making is it's like when a formerly great NBA player becomes a veteran minimum guy, like Andre Drummond, like made a bunch of all-star games, double-doubles like crazy, but once his teams decided he was done with him, he was a veteran minimum guy forever. And I think once a team gives up on you and is like, you're too soft, whatever, and just gives you away for a 4th round pick, how often do you return to being like a bell cow role? Like, I guess
he won't be a bell cow. He won't be a bell cow. But your bet is the offense is so efficient. It's like, what if Kenny Gainwell was dubbed like the starter? If they're like, we're starting Kenny Gainwell this year, like, and they still had a Rashad Penny type, but like, that's essentially what Swift is, right? It's like and he's a little bit bigger. But it's basically like our passing down guy is going to get enough. We're using our passing down guy in a DeAndre Swift role, but it's on the Eagles. So I don't know. His ADP feels fair. I actually had him slightly below ADP. Then I read Pete's post.
Pete's post was
bit.
good. Pete's post was really good, but what it made me want to do was scoop the dip on Penny and Gainwell, not chase Swift up.
Well, how big do you think the dip is going to be on Penny? Because he seems to be holding pretty steady, right?
My guess is 2 weeks from now we're doing this on like May 14th or whatever, and he is like the running back 39 or something. Like he's like a pretty significant faller.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. I don't know. Actually, it's a hard one for me to predict. So his price right now strikes me as a little too pricey. It's mostly what you said, Davis. It's like the Eagles didn't give up a lot to get him. It'd be like, if the Eagles took some running back in the 4th round, that's what they traded to get Swift. Like, and we were just excited about that.
That's a lot. That's a lot to give for a guy who has 1 year left on his contract.
You get a comp pick back. They're going to get a 4th round comp pick back.
Oh,
yeah. It's literally their investment in him is no different than their investment in Rachaad Penny, and that it's basically nothing.
Okay.
Also,
I didn't realize that.
I think there's like there's clearly a little bit of a dynamic where the fantasy community is way higher in Swift than the NFL is. That's
100%.
Definitely true.
And that also shows up in like, if you look at PFF grades, like Swift does not grade that well in those. He's graded worse than Montgomery in those from the past couple of years. So like, I can't explain exactly what that is capturing, but
part of it is capturing his success rate sucks. And he's not a good between the tackles runner. The NFL next gen success rate, he was 4th worst last year. James Robinson was worse. Then Kenneth was worse. Kenneth Walker 2nd. Michael Carter 3rd to last. Swift.
I got one to throw out to you guys. If Miles Sanders had something closer to his 2021 season instead of his 2022 season last year, or let's say he had like 7 touchdowns instead of like the 13 or whatever that he had, and he was just kind of fine, but not like a league winner, how much would people really be thinking of this as like an amazing landing spot?
Yeah, that's
I think it totally impacts how people are viewing it.
It's also like, how much does Philly utilize a running back in the passing game? Like basically none, since
they had 43 receptions by running backs last year.
It's super low, and like it just makes sense. Like they have 2 elite wide receivers. They have a quarterback that probably is better off scrambling than dumping it down to a running back most of the time. Like I think it's a structural thing. I don't think it's that they haven't had talented pass catching running backs. Like Sanders showed a little bit his rookie year that he can catch passes. Gainwell was like a wide receiver running back hybrid in college. Like they had these talented guys and they simply didn't get used. So unless we think Swift is like that much of an upgrade,
which I don't,
guys,
and I don't even think the Eagles do. I don't think the Eagles even think he's that big of an upgrade. I think they thought this is a good cost-adjusted bet on a guy with really high pedigree, and let's bring him in and see what happens.
Yeah, which to me is like, I think he's would be a good best ball pick like 2 or 3 rounds later. It's just to me he feels overpriced. That maybe I need to think more.
He feels a little overpriced to me. Is my gut feeling. I think you are. The thing with Swift is he's an explosive player. So you are. It's not just that he's a pass catcher. It's that he has been an explosive rusher.
Yeah, 50-yard touchdown week 17. You don't have him. Good night, Irene.
Yeah, and right, exactly. And on this offense, like the odds of that type of thing are more are higher because they were literally pulling their starters they pulled their starters at like the end of the 3rd quarter against the Steelers. I mean, if you're an explosive rusher who's just salting away games, and that's why I think Penny remains interesting. But I guess between the two, I don't love like reaching with a pretty significant ADP premium you're paying to get Swift over Penny. So I think you guys have swayed me. I'm going to lower him back down a little bit.
Because also it's like, Swift's success rate was so bad last year. Like, who was getting goal line carries on this offense? Like, I'd honestly say Penny is a better bet, even if it's straight up like Boston Scott.
Hurts is getting goal line.
Hurts is too, but even in the running backs, like, is Swift a better bet than Boston Scott to get goal line carries? Like, I don't know, to be honest.
Unless they're playing the Giants, he will play ahead of Scott, I think. All right, let's talk about Richardson, because this dude's ADP by August is going to be so high. It's going to be so high. Yeah,
it's going to be in the seventh round.
High. If you got to be building your cold stacks right now. You got to do it because the rise is. He's gone ahead of ADP in every draft I've done. I've done 4. He's gone ahead of ADP in every one.
Okay, let's do this exercise. I'm going to start reading off quarterbacks, and you tell me. I'm starting I'll start around quarterback 7 and start going through them. Tell me.
Do I have to factor in? Am I trying to play the ADP game here?
No.
No.
I took a truth serum.
Truth serum. No ADP game.
That could be a long list.
Yeah. Okay. So Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
Justin Herbert. Trevor Lawrence. Deshaun Watson.
This is my line. That's my line. I'd rather have Richardson.
Then Watson? I want Watson still.
Okay, Watson. Yeah. I'll keep going then for Pat. Dak Prescott.
I have Dak ahead.
Tua.
I'm done after Dak.
You're done there.
Okay. So
that's
weirdly,
pick 70 to 80 ADP range.
So this is such an interesting thing about best ball.
Yeah.
I'm never taking Tua if I don't already have Tyreek and Waddle. 0% of the time. But obviously, if I have one of those guys or both of those guys, I'm taking Tua every time. So that's just a weird best ball 80 wrinkle thing. But I mean, just face value, I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure Richardson's my quarterback 9.
So, am I crazy to have Dak ahead? Am I not bullish enough?
Yeah, I'm really worried about this Dallas offense. I actually just saw Cowboy Stats tweet this, that the last 3 years, the Cowboys have been top 3 in plays per game every year with Kellen Moore calling the plays. The 3 years that Mike McCarthy was the play caller for the Packers, they were 28th, 32nd, and 30th in plays per game. I actually think the market might be underestimating the true train wreck potential that this has. Like Mike McCarthy is running, his preference is like a 1990s ball control, grind it out. Like he wants to bring the Cowboys back to the Stone Age, really, because it just gets his goat when Dak turns the ball over. It makes him lose his mind. So he just wants to limit that as much as possible. There's a chance it's really
Ronald
bad.
Jones is actually a good pick.
The thing about the Cowboys is I think there's a chance you're all right that the scheme is way worse, but I think there's some significant player upgrades that it could kind of be a wash.
Yeah.
Brandon Cooks replacing Noah Brown, like Michael Gallup actually being healthy this year. One more year post ACL, more Pollard snaps instead of Zeke being on
losing
the field.
Schultz doesn't help though.
Losing Schultz doesn't help, but
the guy that took Schoonmaker, I do not think is a good prospect. I don't think he's.
I think Jake Ferguson is probably going to just be the starting tight end for Dallas.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah,
I still think the loss of Schultz, like the upgrade of Cooks, is bigger than the loss of Schultz, but maybe I'm wrong there. I just think there's a chance that
I think you're right. I think
it's worse that the players could be better. Yeah,
the weapons slightly improved. I agree, but the coaching got way worse.
Yeah. Well, if a lot of it hinges on if Gallup is all the way back. Like if the ACL was still holding him back last year and he's 100% good to go, I think they have a chance to be better. But if he kind of stinks again, what's their audible? Like if is 2 tight ends with Jake Ferguson and Peyton Hendershot, I don't even know if they have an audible if he's bad.
They don't. Yeah. I mean, I guess Tolbert
couldn't get on the field over.
I know. I'm just naming names I know.
But okay, back to Richardson. Very easy to explain why the draft made it more bullish, which is that he didn't go to the Titans, he didn't go to the Texans, he didn't go to one of these teams that we fear might not have a plan for him. He literally is gone to Jalen Hurts' offensive coordinator, who transitioned him from a guy who couldn't do shit against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in his first playoff game to an MVP candidate. It's just so obvious that they're going to know what to do with him.
And they're going to want to do it right away. That's what's so bullish too. It's they're building the offense around him. There was so many opportunities. That's the press conference I watched the entire one of, because I'm so fascinated to see what their plan is. And he was asked, doesn't Gardner Minshew give you a buffer? Basically, you can start Minshew. You don't have to force this guy in. And he was like, we're going to see how it goes in training camp and OTAs. He dodged are you going to play Minshew the way another coaching staff would dodge? Are you going to play the rookie? They're like, we're playing this rookie, dude. I think he's starting very, very early. You know, maybe he doesn't start week 1, but he's starting a lot of games this year.
Yeah. I think it's, and also if you compare it to Carolina, Houston, the Colts don't have the best weapons, but they have much better weapons than those teams. They got Michael Pittman, who is legit number 1 wide receiver that those teams don't have. You know, Alec Pierce isn't a terrible number 2. They have Jonathan Taylor, obviously a very good running back. So it's not an amazing supporting cast, but it's a passable one. Whereas like the Texans and Carolina, I mean, man, look at the Texans wide receiver depth chart.
Yeah, CJ Stroud has his work cut out for him.
Yeah. To the quarterbacks, I think like a very niche point when I was thinking about Tua and Dak, I do think there is some element to the stacking point you made, Davis. Like if I have CD or I have Waddle or Tyreek, I'd probably take Tua. Or
I
Dak
just
over
yeah,
those guys.
I'm going
If,
I'm
yeah.
pairing those guys every time. Yeah.
It's also like there's something where like the pocket passers are like have a slight edge in best ball over the rushers just from a correlation standpoint where like if Richardson has an amazing week, it's less likely that you have his stacking partner that actually helps you because like he could just rush for 2 or 3 touchdowns or something, right? Whereas if Dak has a ceiling week, it's going to be CeeDee Lamb. I mean, or maybe, you know, Brandon Cooks. If Tua has a spike week, it's definitely Waddle or Tyreek. There's almost like no one else it could be, right? So there's something there to be aware of, but I think that's a fair range for Richardson. I think he'll jump Daniel Jones, Kirk Cousins, Rodgers types. Unless people are just like truly snake bitten by the Trey Lance experience and that like just psychology drags him down. I like don't see how he doesn't keep rising.
I think people are snake bitten by the Trey Lance experience, and that's why he'll be available around Kirk Cousins because that's not where we were taking Trey Lance.
Yeah.
Speaking of being snake bitten by the Trey Lance experience, he's literally going in the 18th round in some of these drafts. Like,
well,
I don't know. You give me a 50% chance that dude is starting week 17, I'm going to be taking him there.
Where are you getting that 50% chance from, though?
Brock Purdy injury complications, basically.
Okay. I don't think that feels high for me. Because my issue with Lance the whole time is that it's that week 17 is the least likely week for him.
No, you're not wrong. You're not, this thought process is not wrong. We don't need to do Trey Lance discussion for the 900th time. Let's do Rashee Rice. So we don't even need to get into the prospect profile. It's just basically like right now he's at 176. He's going to be 155 next week. He's going to get even higher than that. But I mean, this is just simply a 100, like literally a 100 pick discount on where McCole Hardman and Sky Moore were going in the exact same context, literally the same context. Like Tyreek suspension was why Hardman got boosted way up. And no other good wide receivers on the team was why Sky got boosted up. And that proved to be true. Like, had Sky Moore been good, it was all there for him. No one was stopping him from getting his numbers if he was good.
Yeah. So with the KC wide receivers, and I don't know if the strategy was optimal, but I'll say what I was doing like in pre-draft stuff. If I had Mahomes, I was clicking Tony, I was clicking Sky, I was clicking MVS. If I didn't have Mahomes, I was still clicking MVS a little bit, but I was kind of ignoring everyone else. Like that's just how that's how I was doing it. It's pretty simple-minded, but like, I honestly think that's not a terrible, I mean, you won $2 million. So if you were doing it, then it makes me feel smarter about it. But I don't know. I think that's not a terrible way to play the Chiefs wide receivers, to be honest. Like Rice at 176, I would certainly hammer him now because he's going to get more expensive. But once he gets to like 140 or whatever, 130, I don't know.
And is he even here? Like, I don't know how much of the old ADP is like weighted into this because I don't even, I mean, or maybe in some drafts people just forget he exists because he's so far down the list. But
yeah, exactly. That there's, you know, these are far from settled ADPs. These are extremely.
Yeah.
I actually just looked at like yesterday versus today. I made these charts yesterday, assuming like, oh, it's not going to change that much in one day. A bunch of players moved by like 10 spots, so I'm like, I got to update these charts. So like, this stuff is moving so quickly that like, this is like, there's an arrow still pointing up on Rashee Rice that it hasn't stopped moving up for sure yet. So, yeah, if these guys are available in your drafts at ADP or even like 10 picks before ADP, and you're just purely playing the ADP game, like take these guys, the later guys like Rashee Rice, Laporta, Jaden Reed, Mingo, because they're
Kendra Miller as well. I took
Yeah,
Kendra
they're
Miller
gonna
in the
keep
130s today. I had a Saint as well, and I was trying to do like a Saints thing. It didn't end up being those two. But yeah, I mean, Kendra Miller, you also get the Kamara suspension. He'll rise on that, and that's coming.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Can we talk? I'm actually interested in talking the last couple guys in this chart, Jaden Reed and A-Chain. I guess starting with Reed. Again, pick 201. He seems like a good bet. I think we probably all agree on that. Are we expecting him to immediately replace Dubs in 2 wide receiver sets? Because if so,
no.
You don't think so?
No, he's their slot.
Dubs was good. He was pretty good in the snaps he got last year. Like, obviously, I think they like Jaden Reed, and I think they're going to give him a chance to play. But they also, like, the Packers roster is just so bereft of cost-controlled good players. Like, they just have so many snaps to fill out.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. But maybe not immediately replaced, but Jaden Reed got round 2 draft capital. Dubs got what, like mid round 4? Like, it seems to me, if I was betting on who's playing in 2 wide receiver sets by the end of the year, I think I would go Reed.
I don't have any issue with that. But Reed is not a very good prospect, 5th-year guy. He had a couple good seasons. It was like such a weird career because I think he had a great freshman year, and then he had a good, I think, 2021, and then he fell off a bit in 2022. He's a smaller guy. I think he's going to start in the slot, but they made a point of talking about how they really think he can play on the outside. He plays big. He plays tough. So the idea that he's like the starting Z at the end of the year, I think is totally plausible. I like him as kind of a correlation bet. Like if you have Jordan Love, I think it makes a lot of sense to tackle on Reed, and I would probably prioritize him if you have Jordan Love.
Yeah. That makes sense. And yeah, I know some of the film guys think he can play on the outside. I think he played like mostly on the outside, looking at reception perception, at least for last year. Yeah, it was kind of a weird third split between flanker, X, and slot. So he does have some versatility. But yeah, for me, it's just like, I think it kind of makes me out on Dubs almost entirely at his price, just because I think he's like going to become a 3 wide receiver set only guy by the end of the year, which like
I think that's overconfident in Reed. Reed's not a very good prospect. I know he got 2nd round draft capital, but he's like, the idea that like he is capped out as a slot guy at the next level, which is what I would have thought before he was drafted, as like a realistic possibility. That means Dubs is like a starting wide receiver in 2 wide receiver sets. That's not all that unlikely. And you're where he's going. I don't think maybe he needs to fall a little bit, but I don't know. I don't really mind him.
Yeah, I guess he's going up pick 150, so he's not super expensive. I guess I'll just I don't know. We'll see where Reed lands. I'd rather take the higher draft capital guy.
I think the Dolphins backfield is more interesting because it's way more likely to be fantasy relevant. Like the Packers might just have 1 fantasy relevant wide receiver. If you could, I don't know, if you could leave the Dolphins backfield, like what happens between Shane, Wilson, Mostert, that's probably pretty good info to have. Because they did so much weird stuff. Like Wilson would be 70% of snaps one week, and then Mostert would get them all the next week. And sometimes they were both good. Like it was a weird situation. And I think because of Shane's profile, it doesn't do anything to help the weirdness, because he does not profile as a guy who should be playing 70% of the snaps, like none of them really do.
But yeah, I think the nice thing about, is it a Shane? That's what
I think on this show, I think we decided on Ashane for this.
Oh, okay. All right. So let's go Ashane. So the thing about Ashane is that like he was never going to be that guy. And I think at least in this situation, he doesn't have to be. Like,
very good fit.
Can he be Elijah Mitchell now?
I think that's too much. Elijah Mitchell was a workhorse dog in his rookie year. Like he wasn't playing any passing downs, but he was like I think he got like 25 carries a couple times. Like they were grinding.
That's more than I remembered. But I think that's kind of, maybe he's like a skinnier Elijah Mitchell. I mean, he's the speed back who's going to be in a rotation.
Yeah, he got He got 30 touches a couple times.
Wow.
Elijah Mitchell did. I just
Wow.
pulled up his game logs. I mean,
it's nice to not be 188 pounds. It is nice.
the reason why it's such a good fit though is like I think sort of the same thesis to why we like these Miami running backs last year is that it should be a good offense. All of them should catch the ball a little bit. Like I don't think any of them will really be typecast. Wilson is like the grinder, I guess. And I don't know. I mean, Ashane probably gains a lot when Mostert suffers his yearly knee injury as well.
He is Mostert, right? He's like the Mostert guy.
Yeah, he's just Mostert or Breida.
I think if he gets like 45% of the snaps with Wilson if he gets 55 to Wilson's 45, or even if it's 50-50, I mean, he's so explosive and it's potentially such an efficient offense that he strikes me as a very fun pick. Like I was saying, I'd probably chase him into round 9. Round
I don't
10
think you'll have
feels
to.
pretty sweet.
Yeah. That's. I mean, I think all these Miami running backs, if they stay at their current prices, which I kind of expect. I mean, Ashane might rise just because of the rookie hype a little bit, but they strike me as all like it's just a good offense. I think all these guys have shown they can score fantasy points. I obviously prefer Ashane because he's younger, a little bit more exciting, but they all strike me as like good running back picks and zero RB builds. Because like would it honestly surprise you if Jeff Wilson, plays 60% of the snaps week 1 and has a pretty good role? Like,
no,
not really.
No.
So, like, I think they all project as like having potential to be the starter in this offense, which is exciting at their prices.
Well, do you think that Wilson is maybe a little bit more protected than Mostert now because Mostert is sort of duplicative, or is that kind of overthinking it?
They use it, like Davis said, they used them so interchangeably last year that I have a hard time sorting out who's duplicative from like a role perspective. They really just flip-flopped like back-to-back weeks who was the lead guy. If you look at the guaranteed money they got, I think Mostert got very slightly more, but not by much. He's also like 3 or 4 years older than Wilson. So
Yeah.
for me, it's honestly like I was flipping. I like both of their values pre-draft. I think, to be honestly, it's still a coin flip. Like, I don't know if I'm going to take a stand there between those two guys. Probably whichever one's cheaper and sort of flip a coin.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I wish I had a better stand, but honestly, sometimes it's good just to get exposure to the team.
Yep.
Let's chat some of the risers. I think Lamar is an interesting one to talk through, and is pretty obvious why. I guess question for you, Davis. Do you think Lamar, so the quarterbacks now, we still have the 3 guys, Allen, Mahomes, Hurts, going 15, 16, and 17 in ADP. Do you think Lamar significantly closes the gaps with those 3 guys?
I mean, if he doesn't, he's a buy. But like right now, he's a buy. He's got the same ceiling weekly as Mahomes and Allen, and goes like significantly after them.
Yeah.
When are those guys going to not be in the second round?
When casual, like, and like when the more casual players start drafting.
Why are the
I think the more casual guys
players
would
doing
like
this?
You know what happened, which is weird, and I don't know how Underdog does its ADPs, but these guys were falling, and then like the default ADPs they put back into the system had.
I think it's Hayden. I think Hayden loves his early quarterbacks. He's just like, no, Mahomes is 14.
They're gonna go higher. Yeah, so there was a little finger on the scale there for these initial ADPs. I think. Hayden, you can refute this if
we're just
slandering you. But I think they started in the big board. They started to fall to like the 2-3 turn.
They did, right? I feel like I remember.
Let me confirm this. Let me confirm this to make sure I'm not just
because you have the last day. Then you download it.
Yeah. Okay, I'm kind of right. They were going at pick 19, 20, and 21 when the big board closed. So he bumped them back up by like 5 spots each. So
that's a lot of spots in the second
Hayden,
round.
what happened there?
Maybe you know what it might be, dude. It might be the average. Hayden might have absolutely nothing to do with this. It's just the total average for the entire.
No, Hayden's the guilty culprit.
Okay, I would. That's my preference. That's hilarious.
It could be the average. You're right. It could be the average. Who knows? Who knows? How
I just don't. Who are these people drafting Odell Beckham around 100?
Dude, what is the deal with that? I think he's got to be like the worst pick on the board.
Go
So
look
I
at
was
his
okay
go
with
look
it
at his
before
props
Flowers.
if you think this is good.
Yeah. I was okay with it before the Flowers pick. I didn't love it, but I was like, okay, if you have Lamar, sure. Now with the Flowers pick, I'm like, come on, you can't be making this pick. At
He's
like
the
100.
fourth target on the
Yeah,
Ravens,
it's
most likely by the end of the year, right? Like you got he tore the same ACL in his knee. He's going to be 31. He wasn't able to play all of last season. They just drafted Zay Flowers. Andrews is unquestionably the top target in the offense. I think Flowers will be ahead of Beckham by the end of the year, and I think Bateman will be ahead of him probably the whole year. So why? Why is he going here?
Yeah, I don't think we can even have an argument here because I don't even know how you defend the Odell Beckham price.
It's just
pick
got to
100.
be people who are like kind of just getting into like getting the swing of the year, and they're like, oh, I know Odell's name, and he's on a team, and he's healthy, and he's going to play.
I think
Yeah.
what it is that so when Beckham signed, people for some reason got really excited, and he was going ahead of Bateman, which never made sense to me, but whatever. Then Lamar signs the deal, so therefore his price should rise. But they also drafted Flowers, which is a horrible outcome for Odell Beckham.
It's really like people are not understanding how bad it is for him.
Yeah, no, it's really bad.
He at the end of his time with the Rams, like when he was supposed to be kind of a deep threat guy before he tore his ACL, right? He wasn't used that way down the stretch with the Rams. They had him in that role in the first couple games. His ADOT declined over his time with the Rams. By the end, he was like more of an underneath guy, and he was pretty good in that role. But that's what Flowers is going to be. Flowers is going to be more of the intermediate kind of, yards after catch type of dude. The more he comes on, it's directly impacting Odell. So Bateman, I don't want to have the debate about, how good he is. I don't think we really know. He was very efficient, but he didn't run all the routes last year. Maybe not the best bet now that it's a crowded situation, but he at least provides, I think, a clear deep threat on the perimeter there. I think he'll be running a fair amount of routes and will provide something to the offense that Odell simply can't anymore and that Flowers doesn't really profile to. So that also hurts Odell if Bateman has a clear role in the offense that is kind of his. So anyway, I just
I don't get it. I mean, to me, the Bateman signing is most easily explainable as they wanted Lamar back, and this was like a way to get him excited about coming back.
They did give him a lot of money.
They gave him a lot of money. Yeah, that's like where I think if you're making the Odell argument, you say they gave him a lot of money. He was still really good last time we saw him play, which I think is true. I think that part of it is true. But then after that, it's like you got to hit the parlay of Bateman not being healthy when he comes back, Zay Flowers not being very good. I don't know. It seems like a whole
them throwing more.
Yeah, I just don't.
Because Andrews is going to be the number one. He's awesome. He's going to be the number one target.
Yeah. I think people forget that. Like we did this with the Chiefs wide receivers last year where we're like, oh, we got to chase the Chiefs wide receivers up. Well, you forget you got to plug in the 30% Kelsey target share. And then all of a sudden the Chiefs wide receivers don't look as exciting. It's the same argument for the Ravens, but they pass like infinitely less than the Chiefs do. So
right.
It's a tricky one. I want to talk Rachaad White a little bit. I think you guys probably will like him more than me. I guess I just don't get it. I think he.
How do you not like him now?
Yeah, Sam. This is again the bad offense corollary. What else are they going to do? They're going to be, oh crap, I suck at quarterback again.
What is Keyshawn Vaughn going to be pipping snaps away?
Sean Tucker, dude, UDFA.
I mean, Rachaad White. He's
just not good. I don't know. He's just not good.
How could you say that after his rookie season when he was actually a pretty good receiver? He gets on the field, he forces a split with Leonard Fournette right away, and then he had a worse receiving grade than Leonard Fournette. But like, so what? He was a rookie, and they got rid of Leonard Fournette, and they didn't bring anyone else in. I don't think you could say he's not good. He wasn't an efficient rusher, but I think he's a pretty solid pass catching option, and he could break out as a pass catcher in year 2. That's definitely possible.
With Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask thrown to him?
Yeah, with Kyle Trask thrown to him because he can't do anything else.
If I'm taking running backs in this range, I just want running backs on a team that have a chance of being good. I mean, I don't know. It's such a bad offensive situation. You look at his like whatever everything he did last year, he was worse than Leonard Fournette in basically everything he did. Sure, he was still like I get he was
Fournette
still,
wasn't terrible. This is
I know.
It's a
I
very
get
carefully crafted argument to say that because Fournette was fine particularly as a pass catcher. So yeah, he was worse, but then they got rid of Fournette.
You got Tom Brady throwing you the ball. I don't know. I'm skeptical of the Rachaad White receiving stuff when you have Tom Brady at quarterback who's just dumping it down to his running backs incessantly, and he always has. Like, I don't know if those yards per route run receiving grades are a true metric of how good Rachaad White is, or if there's just a metric of how good
he was. I mean,
Tom
he was
Brady
absolutely off the
running
charts. His yards per route run in college was off the charts. I mean, that is what he profiled to do, was to come in and be a receiving back. He immediately came in and forced a split and was a solid NFL receiver. So to me, it's like a continuation of an existing thesis, which is that White profiles as like he's going to be a good NFL pass catcher. And he was a pretty good NFL pass catcher as a rookie. He was a terrible rusher. But
yeah,
you know,
I get it. You can be a good NFL pass catcher though at running back, and like I think Kenny Gainwell is a good NFL pass catcher. That doesn't matter in fantasy. Like I think James Cook is a good NFL pass catcher. That doesn't matter in fantasy that much.
Who's the Damian Harris that you're worried about here? Who's the Rashad Penny and DeAndre Swift? They didn't add any.
I'm worried about the upside, I guess. That's my point. Is like I don't think you have a chance of like beating ADP at this pick. But
the other thing I'll note, by the way,
Tampa Bay Bucks offense with a talent that we think is you have to, I think, at least admit that his talent is questionable at running back, and he's on maybe the worst offense in the league.
Yeah, I don't dispute either of those things. You did compare him to two guys that he has about 18 pounds on. He's not a sub 200-pound guy. He actually is big enough to be an inefficient, but he's definitely gonna be inefficient as a rusher. There's like no question. But he's a big enough dude to where like they just give him the goal line carries because who else is it? Keyshawn Vaughn. So he gets enough of the goal line stuff, which there won't be a lot of because they're gonna suck. But he catches a bunch of dump offs. I mean, we've seen that pay off this kind of ADP before. I don't know. And I was kind of out on him pre-draft because I was like, he's such an obvious guy to get replaced. And I was like, man, if a Charbonnet goes there, if a Bigsby goes there, if Izzy Abanikanda goes there, like all of those guys really, really hurt Rachaad White. But they didn't bring in anybody except for Tucker as in DFA.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's fair. And like I certainly was biased against him pre-draft. So like I gotta reevaluate and make sure I'm keeping myself honest. I guess the guys going after him, I kind of understand why I go ahead of Mixon, James Conner, Javonte, James Cook. Not super excited about those guys anyway, so I kind of get the positional ADP. I don't know. I still think you got to tell yourself a pretty creative story if you're talking about how Rachaad White gets to be a top 12 running back in fantasy.
I don't think you really do. I think
points per game basis. I guess
he just stays healthy. He just stays healthy and catches 55 passes.
That's it. That's the whole story. And Trask plays more than Baker because Baker's so frustrating because he doesn't like check down. He just runs around and does nothing. You want Trask to be like, oh God, and then just pass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think also for this, I just think a lot about touchdowns and like half PPR underdog. And like, I think that's probably where my blocker is with White, where I'm just like, how do the multi-TD games happen for him? And surely it can happen. It's not impossible, but it's just like, it requires
snap consolidation. Snap consolidation is the answer to that because this is the same coaching staff who a couple years ago gave everything to Fournette. They're like, we trust this dude. We're just giving him the whole thing. And I think White has, I wouldn't project that for him. Obviously that's an uncommon outcome, but they clearly did trust this guy as a rookie and they trusted him in pass protection situations with Tom Brady. I mean, I think he's like, a little bit. That's another reason why I push back on the idea that he had this like terrible rookie year. Like he was pass protecting for Brady as a rookie. So I think trustworthy wise, like he's a pretty solid bet. And I wouldn't be shocked if he had like a 70% snap share this year because there's just nobody there.
Yeah. That's fair. I mean, my only pushback would be is like the coaching staff did show confidence in him, but we didn't see like the Rachaad White 80% snap share game. Like the most it got for him was like what 55-45, him in favor
He never
of Fournette.
displaced Fournette. That's
Yeah,
right. He
so
never displaced him.
That's what I'm saying is like, I wouldn't be shocked if we're looking at week 4 and Keyshawn Vaughn's getting a 40% snap roll every week and Rachaad White's the clear starter. Like, however they bring in some third guy and do some gross 3-man committee. Like, I don't know. Like, I
wouldn't be shocked by that either.
Yeah. So then I'm just like, you have a committee back on the Bucks. Like, I don't know. That I get you guys. I get what you guys are saying. I'm probably still out on him, but
like compared to like a
points.
Dameon Pierce or like a J.K. Dobbins, like, are you? I mean, to me, like, that's pretty similar bets, and those guys probably aren't catching the passes.
Yeah, I guess Pierce is. I don't like Pierce either. So, yeah, I'm with you on that. I think it's a similar bet to Pierce. Dobbins for me is just like, I can see the Baltimore offense just being top 5 in the league, and that carries Dobbins to some big spike.
Yeah, he's got the touchdown up. Yeah, the half PPR thing probably has you on Dobbins.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's a half PPR thing for sure.
Yeah.
Just like the Rachaad White spike week is like just so much bigger in full PPR than half PPR, I kind of think. But I don't know. We'll see. I'll think about it more with Rachaad White, and we'll see if they sign someone like Zeke or Hunt or whoever. There's still some minor obstacles out there, I think, but probably.
I think they are probably one of the lesser teams to sign. Like, if you're Zeke, why on earth would you go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
Zeke is just going to re-sign in Dallas, right? That's how it is.
That's probably the most likely. Yeah.
Sad.
I want to hit on some of these fallers, starting with the rookies. I think some interesting conversations here. Keep in mind that like what this is actually measuring is the close of the 1 quarterback big board to today. So there were some weird things where like guys rose and fell in the Superflex big board, and that's like not going to be baked into these prices. I think Downs is a good example where he like already had fallen a lot in the Superflex big board. So like it might not feel like he fell that much more. Anyways, that's just a sort of minor nuance. But
most of these guys it just became clear they weren't going to go as high as we thought. Like Downs, Hyatt, Tucker, Booty.
Yep.
Those guys all fell. Yeah. Good point.
Yeah. And then Smith and Jigba, I think, is pretty interesting to talk about, like his range of outcomes. And then Johnson will probably be a riser, I would imagine, throughout the process.
I think that's right, that he's actually, it's weird that he's actually rising, but it looks like a fall compared to his pre-draft.
He's rising from the Superflex big board, but falling from the big board.
Yes, that's what I was trying to say. Exactly. So let's talk Smith and Jigba first. This one's like really interesting to me because I think I'm generally not someone who's worried when a first-round wide receiver gets drafted about target competition and worrying too much about the depth chart. But Seattle strikes me as like a unique situation where we do actually have to care about that, just because DK Metcalf and Lockett, I think, are still both really good. Like, Lockett's 31, and people bring that up all the time, but you look at his charting, ESPN Open Score, he ranks super high in that. Even yards per route run, these like traditional rate metrics we look at, Lockett still looks really good in that. So, I mean, I think to like JSN at pick 60, we have to be confident that he's going to displace one of those two guys in 2 wide receiver sets. And for me, that's just like an open question. I think you can argue both sides of it, but like, I'm certainly not confident in that.
No, dude, it's not a year 1 play. This is not. Maybe it's a fine pick at ADP because he's got so much ceiling and contingent value, and maybe there'll be a couple spike weeks in there. But I mean, my biggest takeaway is that Addison is the guy. Like Addison has the chance to be like rookie or Garrett Wilson. Like Addison could have
at cost. I'm with you.
Addison is a smash at cost. I was trying to talk. I think we were on I think at the 7:01 on Saturday night, I was trying to talk Pete into Addison because we had taken.
I don't even like Addison's prospect profile that much, but this was the spot. This was just the spot where it's like.
This was the spot. Like he's a down. Like I think he's kind of a field stretcher type, although he's not super fast. But he did a lot of damage downfield in college and in the intermediate area.
He'll just do whatever Justin Jefferson is not doing on that snap. Like if Justin Jefferson is like, I think it's a really good fit of their skill sets. I think it's a good fit with Kirk Cousins. There's like a absolutely gargantuan hole there. They have been force feeding Adam Thielen these inefficient targets for 3 years. Like Thielen used to be really good, declined in efficiency pretty much every year. They were still throwing him the ball. Like Adam Thielen had 14 touchdowns the year Justin Jefferson set the world on fire. Like, I feel like people kind of forget that. Like Adam Thielen Geralded his way to a wide receiver 1 season. And that's the other thing is Osborne is no roadblock at all. Like
At all.
At
It's a
all.
great point from Kevin. Like it's such a clear path to a starting role immediately for Addison.
Yeah, I love the Addison call. I mean, where do you think, like, where would you stop taking him, Davis, if he continues just rise, like in a meteoric rise? Where would you be like, okay,
Let's
I'm
see
out?
here. My guess is probably somewhere around wide receiver 30 feels about right. Yeah, well, no, even higher. I would take him at wide receiver 27, I think.
So
who's that ahead of?
That's ahead of JS. I think him
McLaurin,
versus
Pittman,
JSN is kind of interesting straight up. I think honestly, if the ADPs were close, I would take Addison over JSN. I think this 30-point ADP gap is just overconfidence in fantasy drafters saying which guys, but like their NFL draft capital were basically identical, and one's in a clearly better situation than the other. It's just, I get why we like JSN's prospect profile better than Addison's, but I think there are flaws in both their prospect profiles. So to me, I think they should be going much closer. Maybe like it's a hot take to say Addison ahead of JSN, but the 30-point gap seems insane to me. Looking at the situations.
Yeah. So what I'll say for JSN and why I would continue taking JSN ahead of Addison is that I do think that his profile was very strong, and it was strong in particular in like, man, if this season that he had 2 years ago is who he actually is, he has a really high NFL ceiling. And I think he's not going to displace Lockett to start the year. Like, there's very little chance of that.
But he very easily could by the playoffs.
And I also think that he could emerge in kind of an Amon-Ra St. Brown type of way down the stretch, in particular because Geno really does love throwing short and is very accurate in the short area. So like Geno Smith, Geno Smith falling in love with this guy, and he's a star, I think is in play down the stretch. So that type of outcome is appealing, especially compared to a guy like Addison, who really has it's a Jefferson injury, and that's the only plausible way, right? So I think Smith and Jigba does have at least a chance to emerge, and maybe he forces the Seahawks to go a little bit more 3 wide receiver sets as well.
That's
maybe it's
possible.
not just a pure displacement because
I don't know. I think they're going back to the old wing tee and playing Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker together. Feels more possible.
Get Kenny McIntosh in there too.
I mean, Zach Charbonnet. How far can that dude fall? How far can Sharbs fall he's running back 29 as of this morning. Like,
I'm still in, dude. I'm still in with Charbonnet. They took him with a 2nd round pick.
That doesn't mean shit to the Seahawks, I don't think.
What do you mean? They just took isn't the argument for Walker? They just took him with a 2nd round pick. He was good. No, he was 2nd worst in success.
No,
rate.
don't give me success rate or anything when we're talking about
coaches care about success rate.
No, dude.
That's why Swift just got traded because of success rate.
I think you're reading way too much into it. Swift got traded because he wouldn't do what they wanted him to do. I guarantee you beyond any shadow of a doubt that Pete Carroll fucking loves Kenneth Walker.
I mean, he just took a guy in the 2nd round of the draft.
Dude,
he just loves running backs.
He likes him.
He's 72 years old. Pete Carroll is 72 years old. Like, he just looks at Zach Charbonnet and is like he just wigs out.
That's true. We gotta clip that. That's amazing.
Like imagine it's like you looking at a running back who converted from linebacker. Value doesn't matter. He just is all in on Zach. Like, he just loves that guy.
Davis just killed me.
I think it's just on Pete Carroll's big board, his top 10 is just all running backs.
Running backs.
When Charbonnet fell to him in the second round, he's like, "Oh, I got top 10 guy on my board."
He's like, this guy was number 8 on my board, and we're at 49. I can't take him. What are you talking about?
Look, I don't think it's good that Kenneth Walker is a boom bust rusher who can't catch passes, who just had a guy get drafted in the 2nd round. That seems very bad. And are we? Like, one of the mistakes I made last year was being like, I really like Rashad Penny. I don't want to take Kenneth Walker because I like Rashad Penny too much. Like, let me just take Penny. But here I'm like, isn't Zach Charbonnet like the same exact bet that we just got in Kenneth Walker that just hit in a massive way?
Well, if you here, zoom out a little bit and just look at yourself this way. The Seahawks know they love to run the air out of the ball, like that. They consider that their identity, and they have nothing on their running back depth chart. It's not even Homer's there anymore. I think
DJ and McIntosh they just drafted, right?
Yeah, so it's like they had nothing. So and in this again in the Seahawks' mind, not saying this is how the NFL works. They're like, oh, we'd be totally screwed if Kenneth Walker got hurt. This is like a real need position for us. We need a good second running back. Like that's what they're thinking.
Dude, I would be open to that if it was a 3rd round pick or a 4th round pick in a class that's like loaded with those types of guys, right? Like there's.
Do we consider the Seahawks a good drafting team? I do not.
No, I don't. But I don't think it's just weird to me that like Kenneth Walker, a 2nd round pick, is the clear starter over Zach Charbonnet, a 2nd round pick. Like they have basically the same draft capital. Like, we should assume that this is a committee.
More with Pat. I'm more with
which
Pat
is,
here.
by the way, what they have said this will be. They've said this is going to be a committee. We are going to rotate these guys. We're going to rotate them on 3rd down. We're going to rotate them on early downs. That is what they said post-draft. I think if we just go, no, they'll play Walker. He was good last year. We're the ones putting our head in the sand there. They're being quite open about what they plan to do.
I just think Kenneth Walker is a grown-ass man. Kenneth Walker is like Derrick Henry to me, where I don't care about any of the math or the logic. I just think he's awesome.
Yeah, all right. But he weighs like 30 pounds less. So I don't know. If you're like the big boy, Charbonnet.
This might even be like a little bit of like DFS, like brain tilt, where like every week I didn't have Kenneth Walker. He just would like rip off 60-yard touchdowns, and yeah, like, I don't know. He just, I was also just like so spun out by that selection that it doesn't even make any sense. Like it just was so out of nowhere for me.
It was tilting. I was pissed. I mean, I guess like I took a lot of Charbonnet, not a ton of Walker, but I guess Charbonnet is not going to fall that much just because like the draft capital was still there for him, but the landing spot, there was just so like basically 20 other better landing spots for him than.
Oh yeah, the landing spot sucks.
It's so bad.
But the upside, I think, don't lose sight of the fact that there is a lot of upside in this landing spot because we now think the Seahawks are going to be a pretty solid passing offense, and they just added to the passing offense. They should be solid. And then if Walker were to miss a couple weeks, Charbonnet is like jam him in DFS type of play. They're going to ride him. Like as soon as it's not a committee, he's got serious weekly upside. So I think where he's getting drafted, he's a target.
Yeah. And that's like the inverse of that is kind of why, and like I think Walker should fall, but like obviously, Charbonnet gets injured, Walker becomes a smash as well. Obviously, the difference is you got to pay a 3rd round pick now for Walker, whereas you have to pay like a 9th round pick for Charbonnet. So I think their ADPs, I think Walker is probably going to fall a decent chunk, and Charbonnet's ADP is probably going to stay about where it is. That's what I would guess. So if you like Walker and you like the talent, which I do, I think I'm more with Davis, like on Walker's talent. I'm not as worried about the success rate stuff. Maybe I should be.
Are you worried that he like literally can't catch passes and didn't catch passes even though he played like 80% of snaps last year? Is that a concern to you at all?
No.
Bothers me.
No, I don't care.
I don't care. Half PPR. What are catches even worth in half PPR? Like
yeah, dude. Give me a dude who I think can rip off 180 yards and 3 touchdowns, which I think Kenneth Walker can.
That's the thing. It's the big play thing and the good offense thing. I think Seattle's gonna be good offense.
Close your eyes. Close your eyes. Imagine Zach Charbonnet, all 227 pounds of him, transforms into the 3rd down back for the Seattle Seahawks because he's
totally plausible. Totally plausible. I did not see any.
No, here I gotta close your eyes again. Close your eyes again. Okay, it's week 1. We're looking at Nathan Janke's snap reports for PFF, and DJ Dallas led the backfield in snaps with 38%.
Also plausible.
Yeah. I didn't even need to think about that.
But that's why, to me, I'm like, Walker, keep falling, buddy. I'm not interested at all. Like, I'm not even getting close to interested in Kenneth Walker where he is right now. So, like, I have him like a 20 picks past his current ADP. Keep on sliding. Like, once you get into the 5th, I can deal with a guy who might be in a 3-way split who doesn't catch passes.
I'm kind of with you. I'm gonna take him once he falls. I think he should fall a decent chunk.
I don't know. I think he was so explosive and so fun as a rookie. My guess is that I have a pretty big fade stance against him. I don't think the market will bail me out. Like I would love to mix him in the fifth because he is explosive. But
well, it's a good segue. Now looking at the veteran fallers, Walker does show up as the second biggest veteran faller, down 10 spots since the big board closed. So yeah, I don't know. I think there's momentum, or whatever the opposite of momentum is for Walker. He's going to continue falling down boards. But yeah, does he get to the fifth, sixth? If I was to just guess, I'd say pick 45-ish is probably where he settles, but it could take a bit of time for him to get there.
That seems about right. That seems like around like in the mid 40s seems about right where he'll settle.
Yeah. Okay. Some other guys here to talk through. Jameson Williams. I don't think we've had a chance to really talk through that. I traditionally like to target like the suspended player discount.
The new format sucks for this. Like you're giving up, like, I don't know, obviously it's less EV than $3 million first place, but you're giving up meaningful EV having guys who are not contributing points in the regular season now.
Yep.
I think that's a fair point to make. And it's just with me, like, I don't know, a guy who, let's be honest about Jameson Williams' rookie year for a second. Even when he was healthy, he did not earn a sizable role. And you could say, hey, they're protecting him because he was injured, all that. You can make all those excuses. Part of it might have been he just wasn't good at learning the playbook. Like, even by the end of the year, he was not earning a significant route rate, which I think we have to say, when wide receivers these days immediately earn big roles, I think that is a little bit more of a red flag than people are making it out to be, because they're making the injury excuse, which I get. That's totally possible. But I think that combined now with the suspension just makes me like a lit, like, I don't know. Sometimes when bad news comes out about players, it just kind of continues. So I'm not saying Williams' career is dead by any means, but like, I think there's a little more systemic risk in Williams just based on the suspension. So I'm a little wary.
I had forgotten that he had one reception last year. Isn't that crazy?
True?
Yeah,
dude.
True? He had one reception. It went for
just for like a touchdown. Okay. Oh my God.
It's not a bit.
Nuts.
Nine targets, one reception. He played 78 snaps in 6 games. Now he is suspended for gambling for 6 weeks. Got to be honest. Dan Campbell seems like a guy who's like, I don't care if I just took you, we just traded up for you. Like if you like, just seems like he's not with the Lions program.
Like, I don't know. He didn't have much competition to earn snaps and routes last year, and he didn't do it. And I think people made a lot of excuses for that. Obviously, small sample and everything, but man, I didn't realize that. That's now I'm even more out. What, he had one catch last year? What?
I will say the one thing I think it's better that he didn't get routes than if he did get routes. Like, at least his targets per route run was 22%, which is pretty good, given that he had an 8 out of 19.3. So I would, the bet with Jameson Williams was that he's basically going to be this explosive deep threat. He's going to be able to get wide open and earn targets. I think wasn't he like wide open on another play that was overthrown or something? Because I feel like there was more. Like there was some reason we were more excited than just one reception. but like,
had to be some reason.
It had to be. But he did tear his ACL in the national championship game. Like it's not just excuses to say, he wasn't able to run routes because he was still coming back from an ACL. Like, that's legit. And
that's
the fact
legit.
The fact that he did earn 8 targets on 37 routes is a good sign, especially because, again, he was getting targeted deep.
Yeah. No, that's true. The excuses are fair, but at the same time, you can also say the Lions were fighting for a playoff spot down the stretch, and they didn't trust him enough to play in meaningful routes. So, like, I think like the high target rate, low routes guys, like, even though you can, I do agree, Pat, that if he ran a ton of routes and just completely bombed, I'd probably be like more concerned. But I think we have a tendency to like, for prospects we like, just always see the positive side in those type of situations when I think it still is I think you still have to counter it as a red flag that he didn't earn a role when he got back last year. Even like make all the excuses you want. Like if it's the injury thing, the fact that he was injured, that's a red flag too, right? Like you can't just throw that away.
Yeah.
You got to count everything holistically in some sense. And
well, I have him quite a bit lower than this still, so I'm not necessarily making the bull case for selecting him, but I do think, I think he provides upside. Like I don't, but where do I have him?
He seems like a better. He seems like a better FFPC pick than underdog pick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
because he'll probably go at 150 there too.
Right. Walker, we just talked about. Palmer, I mean, he's completely dead. Algier, he's a handcuff now. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Do you guys want to talk about Lance at all?
I kind of want to almost save that for another show.
We've covered it, haven't we?
Yeah.
Hopkins, just while we were here, again, more breaking news. God damn, we are long-winded guys. DeAndre Hopkins just put on his Instagram story this afternoon that he's not expecting to be traded. So, I mean, he could be lying, right? He could be lying, but the time to do it was kind of this last weekend, and it didn't happen. Also, inside reporting, apparently DeAndre Hopkins has been working out at Rudman's gym, and he said the Baltimore Ravens are a trash organization. Also, I have a hard out in 20 minutes.
Yeah. We'll close things out quickly on Hopkins, though. Then I think that means he's gonna fall a lot.
Yeah, right? That's very bad for him.
Yeah, like to pick 60-ish probably, because I think basically baked into his price was that he's gonna be on the Bills or Chiefs, almost like.
Yeah, let me adjust some assumptions real quick on him that I had. Where are you guys, by the way, I don't want to forget to ask, where would you guys take Jameson Williams?
I probably would. I need to do more drafts to have a better answer for you.
Like wide receiver gets so bad that like I'm not writing him off. It would probably be in the like Lazard, KJ Osborne, Zay Jones, Adam Thielen range, like 130s maybe.
So I'm still too high compared to you guys then.
Well, I mean, maybe I'm too low. I don't know. Just like 6 games. I mean,
for example,
it just feels weird.
I'd take Addison over him pretty easily, and that's 10 picks later.
No, like, but this is fake, right? Like, he's gonna be.
I think with everything shifting around, I'd say probably around pick 100, 110 for Jameson.
Okay, all right. That's
I don't think a massive slide, but I think there's like 10 guys I can see going after him right now that I'd rather have than him. I can actually like count it out probably, but yeah, like you said, he's still like prospect really liked, good offense. Like if you're playing for week 17, you're getting a good value. It's just that, we're not even sure if he's good. Even with like last year, we were sure Hopkins was good at football and we still discounted him pretty heavily for the suspension. Now it's a case where we like don't even know how good the guy is, right? Okay, cool. Let's close things out. I know Dave's got a hard out. Does anyone want to go first for their favorite value? Otherwise, I'm happy to jump in.
I didn't pick one, so
okay. I'll go first and vamp while you guys think of it. It's a player we already touched on, maybe cheating a little bit, but Sam Laporta, who's a riser up to pick 199 right now, is my favorite value. We've talked through a lot of these points, just no tight ends in the roster. Brock Wright, Shane Zylstra, James Mitchell. Some of the other rookie tight ends, I think, have at least minor obstacles to overcome to get on the field. Laporta has basically nothing. And also, like we just talked about, wide receiver 2 for the first 6 weeks is going to be pretty weak with Jameson Williams out. So I think he has a chance to establish himself pretty quickly into the game plan. Tight end earned some targets. And again, really good draft capital, very early, day 2, pick 34 overall, and just a really athletic guy. I think he was like a 9.2 RAS guy from Kent Lee Platt. So yeah, just checks a lot of boxes. We're betting on touchdowns in half PPR for fantasy, and I just like getting Detroit's likely starting tight end at pick 200 for the fantasy playoffs. So that's my case for Laporta.
I'm going to
Davis?
cheat. Jerick McKinnon.
No, that's
That's giving me 10 points at running back.
It's so
A
much
fake
equity
team.
you're getting. That's
Yeah.
full blown cheating.
I can't believe I didn't think of that. That's such an obvious answer.
Well, maybe you guys need to study a little thing called game theory.
All right. I'll go Jonathan Mingo.
That's a
Always
good
going.
one. I mean, that's good. You're getting a little bit of built-in steam there, and it's also a good one.
We
Like
all
he is
cheat.
going to
We
rise.
all
I like we're
None
all
of the
just
GDPs are
gaming.
real.
None of these are helpful to anybody. We're just gaming. the
No,
system now.
that is helpful because there are risers that we don't like. There are guys who are going to rise in cost that we do not like, that are not our favorite values.
That's fair.
I mean, I Mingo is sort of one of them, but I genuinely think that like he's a guy where it could get away from us as, you know, people who might prefer to fade Jonathan Mingo. This could be a Dameon Pierce situation where you're like, this dude's going in the 6th round. What the fuck is going on? But like the coaches are talking him up. The projections are like, I mean, he's gonna have like, you know, 21% target share on this team or whatever. Like, there's no other competition. Like, you know, like, yeah, I just don't want to pay the price that I think this guy could end up having once it's clear that they plan to install him as their top target. And I think they probably do plan to do that because they just drafted him very early in the 2nd round.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest lessons for me in doing this show just at the offseason is like the guys who show up as risers one week, they're going to be risers the next week and maybe even the week after. Like it's just kind of how it happens. So there's some game theory or whatever logic in just chasing the risers as they continue to move up. But yeah,
This is the Jedi meme where it's like, I would go after the guys who go up, and then it's like, no, what you really want to do is buy low, and then the other side is just take the risers.
yeah, exactly. If you take the guys that are falling, you're gonna lose CLV probably in the long run. Awesome. Anyways, guys, anything coming up, Pat, for you on Legendary Upside that you want to tell the people?
Yeah, so I'll be doing a mailbag show with Davis here in like 40 minutes. It won't be live. You'll be able to enjoy it around this evening. Is when it'll actually go live. But that's a Dynasty mailbag pod. Talking with Kevin Cole, doing some draft takeaways this week. I'm going to be doing a show with Eric BBM4 later in the week. That'll be on the Spike Week YouTube, I believe. But yeah, over at Legendary Upside, what I would suggest is if you go to legendaryupside.com/early, that'll get you $30 off your first year. It will also make you eligible for some perks that I am announcing probably within the next 24 hours. So go ahead and sign up.
Sounds good. Davis, anything coming up for you?
Oh, best ball rankings I'm going to have live very soon as well.
Yeah, I'm getting rankings put together right now that I'll get put out there, and Take Cast, Sports Grid Fantasy Football Podcast, all that good stuff, and we'll just keep chasing Jerick McKinnon and Rashee Rice up those boards.
Sounds good. All right, we will be back next week. See you guys.